Today, I'm sharing many powerful moments actually, from my conversation with Bec Cameron this week. Small pieces from both part 1 and 2 to give you a feel for what we've been chatting about and what's still to come tomorrow. This conversation is full of honesty, strength, and insight. We touch on confidence, women's health, hormones, sleep, movement, nutrition, identity, and the deeper journey of learning to care for yourself in a way that is real and sustainable. So here's a little taste of this inspiring chat with Bec Cameron. And if it resonates with you, make sure you come back for tomorrow for part 2. Enjoy. Before we dive in, I want to give a big, massive shout out to our now new proud sponsor, Eshu Skincare, a brand that truly aligns with leading our own way. This Australian-born company is dedicated to keeping skincare simple, effective, and straightforward. They've made waves in the US, even landed in Macy's and over 300 stores, and now they're back with a renewed focus on healthy skin and real results. If you want authentic skincare that fits your lifestyle, check them out in the show notes. Thanks to Eshu Skincare for supporting real stories and mental fitness on leading our own way. And if you're interested in sponsoring like Eshu Skincare, drop us a message. We'd love to connect.
Yeah, so bodybuilding, I guess I always grew up as an athlete. So I played volleyball at a pretty high level when I was growing up. So I was always very active. And then as I kind of stepped into the personal training space in the fitness industry, it was hard to get to my trainings for my chosen sport because there are times that I would be training clients. So I had only just started to see little bits about bodybuilding come out on social media. It wasn't really a big thing back then when I started. And I was like, yep, I want to look like that. That's body goals basically, which is not a healthy motivation to compete, just by the way. But that was my initial motivation. I was like, great, I want to look like that. I'm going to train for this now. So it was essentially the way that I made the gym my sport. And I've always been a very competitive person. So it was a great way to be able to channel that into something new. And so, yeah, I competed between 2015 and 2022 across the ICN and IFBB in the bikini category and had a great and successful career in bodybuilding. I think bodybuilding for me was such an incredibly transformative personal development journey. And I always say that about the sport. It's one of the best personal development journeys that you can go on because you kind of have to do the opposite of listen to your body in the sense that you have to eat when you're already full, when you're trying to grow muscle, and then you have to not eat when you're hungry, when you're trying to prepare for the stage. So it really does require a lot of discipline, even just getting into the gym when, you know, you are in a depleted state and it's hard. You have to learn to show up regardless of everything else. And I do think that that's really powerful. I also want to say I think it really helped me with my relationship with food and that it taught me the benefit of eating more food to actually like build the shape that I wanted. Whereas prior to that, I was always stuck in that trap of always like under eating and overdoing cardio. So I think a lot of people will say, oh, bodybuilding's not really very good for your relationship with food. It's pretty extreme. And while, yes, it is, the physique you put on stage is not something sustainable and the goal should never be to sustain that, it did actually really help me heal that relationship with food for me personally.
Yeah. So what's your aim now in terms of, I know you've left that part of your life, but obviously you still heavily work in it every single day. You must have a personal, well, not must, but I'm assuming you have a personal goal. How do you want to have your body now then versus what you wanted your body to look like then?
Yeah, so I officially retired after the 2022 season, although I do get the itch sometimes to do it again. So we'll see. Never say never. But
watch this space.
Yeah. For me right now, it's actually more about just maintaining a body that I feel good and confident in year round. I'm very much focused on being in a position where I feel my best day to day, both in terms of body confidence, but also in terms of cognitive function. I'm definitely in a phase where I'm more focused on, my clients competing and my business and making sure that I can show up every day without being depleted and feeling brain fog. So my approach to fitness now is a bit more balanced. I still get in the gym and train hard in the weights room, and my goal is to preserve and build muscle tissue, but then I also incorporate like a balance of cardiovascular health. So I'm doing like some running, which I was never doing in my bodybuilding era, because that could take away from the goal of bodybuilding. So now it's just a bit more balanced and overall like health and longevity based approach.
Yeah. For the everyday person who doesn't necessarily work in fitness, or they're even aware of the importance of lifting and really putting the muscle under good stress for longevity reasons, and tell them how important it is to just do some strength work, because we lose a percentage, don't we, of muscle mass every 10 years. I've forgotten the percentage. Is it like 5%, 15% every 10 years or something?
Yeah, I don't have the exact percentage for you, but yeah, as we get older, we lose muscle mass and we also lose bone density, especially women going through that like perimenopause phase. As our estrogen declines, that has a massive impact on our bone density. So it is really important for everyone, whether you're male or female, to be lifting weights, because it is going to help us prevent injury as we age, protect our bone density, and having lean muscle tissue on our body is also highly metabolic. And basically what that means is that it burns more calories just by being on our body. So if we are lifting weights, we have some lean muscle tissue, then we essentially just burn more energy throughout the day. So as a weight management strategy, it's also really powerful. Like resistance training should be in everyone's routine. You don't have to do it 6 times a week. Even 3 times a week is enough just from a health perspective. But I think a lot of people think, oh, I need to manage my weight, I'm going to go do cardio, when yes, cardio is good for our cardiovascular health, but weight training is such an important foundation for everyone. Like everybody should be doing at least some weight training. Yeah, so I think when I was in primary school, I was a very tall, very lean kid, and I would say I always had a really good metabolism, and I was very skinny. So I actually got bullied in primary school for being so skinny, and I would be teased for that. And then as I got into high school, started going through puberty, obviously as women, our bodies start to change. And I remember one day I came out and into the lounge room and my dad said, oh, you've got hips now. And I was like pinching like my muffin top, and I was like, oh, I hate this. And I started getting really insecure about how my body was changing. And I think a lot of women go through that at that age, and probably that comment from my dad didn't really help. And the fact that I remember that even now as well, like I don't remember a lot from my childhood, but I remember that comment, so it must have been impactful. And then I went down that slippery slope that a lot of women go down, which was restricting my eating and overdoing cardio. So I started running. I was playing sport at the time when I was in high school. I'd have maybe netball training before school, and maybe volleyball training after, or if I didn't, I would like run back to school to volleyball training, then run back, or I would run to the gym, do 2 classes back to back, and then run home. So I was just exercising a lot. I do think part of it was wanting to change my body, but I think the other part of it was not wanting to be at home in the environment that was. And it was my stress response. I've always had, exercise has always been my outlet for stress, and I've always loved that. And I think that can be really positive, but it can also be really negative when you overdo it, which I obviously was doing at that point. So it was definitely a coping mechanism. And then I guess it became a control thing too, in the sense of a lot of the time when it comes to disordered eating, it is a control thing. Like you can't control what's going on at home. Like you can't control something in your life, but what you can control is your body and what you're putting in your mouth and these sorts of things. So it becomes this control mechanism. So yeah, I took that too far and got myself to a point where I was very unhealthily thin. And I know like I said, I'm quite tall, and I got down to about 49 kilos. And that was when I found the gym and the idea of bodybuilding. And that was when I started to be like, actually, I want to build muscle. I want to grow, and got my first coach who taught me that I need to eat more and stop doing so much cardio if that's the result I want. And that was kind of the process of my healing, I suppose.
Have you ever struggled with fatigue, chronic fatigue, anything like that mentally through that journey of that discipline that you had to put your mind and body through constantly every day?
Yeah, so I have had my own journey with chronic stress and adrenal fatigue. So basically what that looked like, I think I've always kind of been the person that bites off a little bit more than they can chew. I was always, when I first started working, I was working full-time while I was also at uni full-time. I was playing sport. Like, I've always just had a lot on my plate. And I think I got to a point in my life. I also struggled with insomnia a lot of my life. So that also played a role, that my sleep was very insufficient. And over time, I started my PT business. I was working really long hours in the gym there. I was competing in bodybuilding, and I did a couple of seasons, got through that completely fine. And then it was when I was going into my third season of bodybuilding around 2017, I was still struggling with sleep a bit, and I was in a pretty toxic relationship at that point in my life. And that was when all of that chronic stress built up, and that's when it really hit me. So just like you said, we can deal with acute stress. Acute stress is not an issue. It's going to happen. We're going to have periods of stress. It's when it's that prolonged and ever-present stress that we essentially operate in this high cortisol state, that our body just can't keep up with that cortisol production. And if anyone listening doesn't know what cortisol is, it is essentially a stress hormone that is released when we're stressed. So when we're in that high cortisol state, we get to the point that our body can't keep up with those cortisol demands anymore. And then we can actually go into the opposite, where we become insufficient at producing enough cortisol. And that's when we really hit fatigue. That's when it's hard to get out of bed in the morning, because cortisol, we actually need it. It helps us wake up in the morning. So we have a natural cortisol curve throughout the day that comes up in the morning, helps us wake up, and then it comes back down. So when we can't produce it, it's really hard to get out of bed. It's really hard to lift weights. It's really hard to have any sort of energy, any sort of libido. Like, there's so many cascade effects of that. And that's where I got to. I was diagnosed with moderate adrenal insufficiency. So kind of one step before an official chronic fatigue diagnosis. And yeah, that was a really hard part of my life in terms of my mental health, because my whole identity was wrapped up in, I do it all. Like, I work hard, I train hard, I do all of these things, and then I just couldn't do anything, no matter how hard I tried.
Yeah, wow. So if I was your friend back then, through that time, what would I have seen in Bec? How would you have come across? How would you have appeared? Would you just look normal and happy putting that mask on? Or would I have seen it, in your skin, in your hair, whatever it may have been, or your body language? What would have I seen?
Yeah, I would say I was really flat. I wasn't my usual bubbly and energetic self. And yeah, I felt pretty low. I definitely would have looked tired, some big bags under my eyes, because my sleep was no good as well. And yeah, even skin health, like, when you're in that position, you don't glow like you usually do. Like, you look depleted, I suppose, is the best way to describe it. So yeah, I definitely wasn't my best self at that time.
It's interesting. Since I've started the journey of reading 4 years ago, I've been doing the podcast for 2 years, and I get to see myself very much. So I try and do my own self-reflection. I feel like when I see people or myself, I can see if I'm stressed. I can see the change in body language. I can see, in a way, what's going on in someone's life just by how they're appearing. Can't always judge, can't always be 100% correct, absolutely, but typically speaking, I can sense where they're at mentally. And when I'm seeing myself on a timeline of like the videos from that I was filming at December and January are coming out now, and I was not eating the best because you've got holidays and you've got the treats and all that. So now I can see it in my face a little bit. And even right now, I feel like I've carried it on. So when this comes out in a few months' time, I'll feel like, but when I'm back to doing, my really cold plunges and sleeping well and lifting in the morning and eating clean and getting my fatty acids and my omega-3s and eating my fish every day and stuff, I really can see a difference in myself when I'm editing my videos. It's bizarre. It's like my own little secret diary, but a visual one. It's weird.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? What you just witnessed is only a snippet of our amazing conversation this week. This is what Leading Our Own Way is all about. Real stories, real transformation. If you're watching this before Wednesday, part 1 dropped yesterday and part 2 releases tomorrow. But if you're already here after Wednesday, all parts are available now. Head to YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts and every other major platform and look for the numbers on the bottom left-hand corner of the episode's covers to start with part 1. Trust me, you don't want to miss this incredible journey.